Hi, I'm Sarah.
And I'm David. Let's talk about The Traitors, episode 6, season 3. The roundtables are good this season.
Oh, and a couple turrets were pretty good, I would
Yeah.
say, as
Yeah.
well. Before we get into it, if you are new to this channel, please click subscribe and give this video a thumbs up.
And you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/nerdtainment.
I'm traveling. I have a new setup. I'm like twisting around things, clicking. So bear with me as
I
we
think
do
we
what
got the
we do.
sound figured out before the
Yes.
stream, though. My mic was facing the wrong way. Sarah clicked
Hmm.
a bunch of buttons, so hopefully
Yeah.
we're sounding good for everybody.
Yes.
But we are going to start with one of those juicy turrets. The Traitors are fighting, Sarah, right at the top here.
Of course they are, because this group of traders is a one of a kind.
They hate each other.
They hate each other.
Like the only people in their way are each other.
They all wanted to be traders and they're regretting their life choices right now.
Yeah, they're like, I think all three of them are like just wanting a traitor refresh. They don't trust
Yes.
each other. They feel probably like there's no way back for them. So they're feeling stuck and they're like, the only way out of this is for me to murder you two. Like literally, I think every single one of them is like, I'm going to murder you two and I'm
Yeah,
going to
I
get
just
fresh meat in here that I
I
can
just want to
actually
murder y'all.
control.
Yeah. And speaking of, we're coming off of Danielle being like, I gotta get Carolyn out so that I can get Rob out. So Carolyn is entering this turret, ready to go.
Because Dylan told her, just I'm talking her out
Heads
of
up.
it, but someone is
Mhm.
coming for you, and she's like, "Give me the name." And he says Danielle. So Carolyn is on fire.
Fire.
She is definitely mad at Danielle, but she's also fed up with Rob. Like I love the moment where she's
Sure.
like, "I don't want to murder anybody except you two. So what are we gonna do?"
Yeah. And they are like, what are we gonna do?
Right.
Uh, at some point, Rob is yelling. I think he's like, y'all,
Yeah.
we have to get this together. Danielle does apologize.
She says,
But,
"This is a family," and Carolyn's
oh,
like, "Is it?"
it's quite a dysfunctional one. Yeah. Danielle is going to ultimately be like, okay, I'll try to fix it. But I'm like, how do you fix it?
Yeah.
How do
Danielle's
you
like, "I
fix it?
promise I'm gonna make it right. I'm gonna make it right." It's such a half-hearted promise, but they just need to get through this, and Rob is like, "Y'all, center yourselves.
Yeah.
Can we please come up with 3 names that are not us?" So they come up with Wes, Bob H, and Ivor as 3. Ivor sort of because, like, he's obviously a faithful and everybody believes it, and so they need to get him out because there's no suspicion on him. But I think Rob really is going to want Bob H because Bob H was the one who kind of came for him at the last round table.
Yeah, but I thought, and I believe we said this last week. That's too obvious. Like Bob saved himself 1 week because why would you murder the guy who just said, "Hey, Rob, I bet you did that."
I know. And that does become part of the conversation later.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
Rob twisted. That's the thing about this game is you can kind of twist anything into like, oh, of course it seems too obvious. And that's why someone's trying to frame me, like that's how you sort of get around those things. Um,
And I kind of liked the Ivar suggestion because he is just a waste of space,
yeah,
but he's obviously a faithful
right.
and
But
you
nobody's
would have
obviously coming for him, It's like it's
mhm.
confusing, I think, to vote him out because it doesn't really point a direction towards any of the traitors.
But that's what I like about it, because
Me
you're
too.
like, "Who would murder Ivar?" And that's
Mhm.
what I like. So when they ultimately chose Bob Harper, I was like, "Really?"
Mhm.
But
I mean,
I
I
first Carolyn has to smudge it, and we have to have a joke about how Carolyn is a hot
she
mess.
gets wax all over her fingers, and I'm like, "Of course
She's
you
like,
do."
"Is it bad?" And I'm like, "What?"
Should I redo it? And the producers are like, "It's perfect."
I waited for Bob Harper to open it and be like, "Did Carolyn do this?"
Bob
Either
Harper
that
looks
or a
at the
child.
outside and he's like, "This has to be Carolyn."
This is either a child or Carolyn, so
At breakfast the next morning, Rob comes up, right? Sierra brings him up first, and we already kind of know that Derek is on to Rob.
Yeah.
But Sierra is like, I think it might be Rob. Like, it kind of makes sense that he would come for a fellow traitor with Bob the drag queen. And Derek's like, I like that theory.
Yeah.
Oh, Sierra, yes.
Yeah. Derek's like, Rob is someone you would murder. Like, if you are a traitor, you're murdering Rob. So if he walks in that door right now, he's
Where are
got to
we?
be a traitor.
Yep. And then he walks right in. And
And
Derek's
then,
like,
yeah.
I wasn't sure
Yep.
about you, Rob. And Rob's like, I know, man, right? And he's like,
So
but I
worried.
am
So
sure
worried.
about you now.
But I'm sure about you. But David, did you hear Dolores at the top of breakfast really worried about Danielle?
Oh, she's like, please tell me Danielle did not get murdered.
Mm,
I would feel
mm.
horrible because she gave me a shield.
Yep. Oh God, I hope she gets through that door. I was like, oh, Dolores going strong. Okay.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But Danielle's safe, of course. And it is Bob H. who got murdered. And I think people really liked Bob H.
Yes. Especially me.
Yeah. And Sierra. Sierra was like, if Bob H. gets murdered, I will burn this mansion down. Like she, I don't know why
Yeah.
she felt so close to him. We didn't get a lot of their relationship, but he was beloved in the
Yes.
castle. And
I
I
loved that.
have to imagine we didn't get a ton of people wondering like, Bob H kind of came for Rob last night. What does that mean? But I have to imagine people's minds went there a little bit.
Not enough.
And definitely not Tom Sandoval. He's like, I thought that I was in trouble. Like, should I pack my stuff up? And then Gabby's like, sweetie, you're great for the traitors. Nobody's going to murder you.
She explained it perfectly. I was like, oh, she does get the show. She gets it.
No,
Because she was like, Tom, let me tell you how this works. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, where's the lie? She said it all perfectly.
And Tom is sort of stunned into silence because he's like,
no,
wow.
all I know how to do is panic that I'm going to be murdered at all times.
Right. And she's like, yeah, that's perfect.
And then this is going to be the part of or the start of a Tom Sandoval edit that I'm personally here for. He's like, you know what? It's Dolores. Hey, Brittany, who has played games and knows what's up. It's Dolores.
Brittany's coming alive this episode. The camera has turned to her. We haven't gotten a ton from her so far. And I'm like, I'm worried that this might mean that she's going to be out soon, but I'm going to enjoy Brittany while we have her, in the zone. And Tom's like, hear me out. I think it's Dolores. And she's like, it's not her.
It's not.
Tom. He's literally giving her a migraine. She is so unamused at all of his many theories.
Perfectly obnoxious. Because he's like, it's Dolores. She's like, no, it's Dolores.
It's not.
It's Dolores. She's like, no, it is not. And then he starts yelling. He's like, stop.
Yeah,
and I was
stop saying it's not her. And she's like, it's not.
I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this look on you. Okay.
Then we see Boston Rob, starting to plant some West seeds. He's with Ivor and Dolores, and he's kind of saying like, I don't know, but I'm suspicious. Like, Bob the drag queen was probably right. There probably is a new guy who's a traitor, and I think it might be Wes. And meanwhile, Derek is on the Boston Rob pitch train, and he's now bringing in Wes. And he's like, Wes, I don't think Boston Rob is a traitor. I know with everything in my being. And Wes is like, you're sure? He's like, I have never been more certain of anything. And Wes is like, okay, cool, man. I'll pile on if you can rally the votes. Great. So this is sort of the beginning of that.
Right. I mean, I liked the way they kind of secretly were chatting, and Wes was like, look, I'm not sticking my neck out for any of this, but I totally I agree. Like, I'm here if we can get the numbers.
Yeah.
But then Brittany is going to unfortunately give Carolyn a heads up about her name going around.
She's like, somebody told me, Carolyn, that you threw my name out. And Carolyn, of course, is like aghast. And she's like, who? Even though she knows who. But Brittany's like, I can't say. But Carolyn knows. She's like, it had to be Danielle.
Right. And Carolyn's like, you're close with this person. And she's like, yeah, like she gets a hint. Carolyn knows. Now, unfortunately, all of this that Carolyn gets today is from the day before.
What do you mean?
So Carolyn's going to get a lot of information today from different people like Brittany of Danielle saying Carolyn's name.
Oh,
all
right.
from
But
the
it's
day
like
before.
in the past. It's not
Yes.
like Danielle hasn't had the chance to make it right yet, is what you're saying. Like all of this is old information.
This is all old information, but Carolyn is getting it now thinking Danielle's supposed to make it right. And I'm just hearing that Danielle's saying my name. So even though it's old, it doesn't really matter because you're like, dang, Danielle, you did all of that work yesterday?
That's
really?
the thing. Like, I think Carolyn is like, well, I thought I was going to give you the chance to make it right, but now I'm hearing from so many more people. Like, how far did you go with this?
Pretty far. Pretty far.
Yeah. We go to the mission, and they've got 30 minutes to collect gunpowder from these wooden crates, and 3 of the crates have shields. And of course, everybody goes for the shields first.
Yeah, we divide up into is it the 3 groups, right?
Yeah, 3 groups.
Going on 3 like maps.
Yeah.
They're all going to run to the shield first, but we have different ideas on how we're going to get a shield or how this is going to work, right? Because you've got like 5 or 6 people going towards a shield.
Yeah, 2 groups rally around the idea that makes sense, and Carolyn just snatches her group shield.
That was pretty funny. Carolyn just takes it, and then her face is like, "Why wouldn't I take it?"
She's like,
of course, Tom's face is like, "Me." But what about me? I'm the top of the list to be murdered.
Somewhere Gabby's like, no. Gabby, I think, is in his group, actually.
She's like, I tried to explain it. No. But I think it's funny because Danielle's in that group, right? We have 2 traitors, and I think Danielle helps the situation be like, we'll just give it to Carolyn and we'll just move on and we won't tell anyone and then we're all safe.
She's like, everybody will think, nobody will know who from our group has the shield if we keep it quiet. So just keep it, Carolyn. It doesn't even matter. Just don't tell anybody that you have a shield.
That was played so perfectly, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
By everyone except Tom.
But then these other 2 groups are going to do rock, paper, scissors. Who knew that we had a rock, paper, scissors world champion in our midst?
Who knew that was a thing?
Dylan is good at rock, paper, scissors.
He's a
game that it is impossible to have skill at because it is completely luck based.
Right. So I don't fully understand that. Does everyone remember when David taught me what that's really called? Do you remember that, David?
When I taught you Rochambeau?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You and Douglas were like, we're going to play Rochambeau. And I was like, I'm sorry, what are we doing?
You're like, what language is this?
That is a made up word.
I don't know what it stands for.
I don't know. Just call it rock.
Like row could be rock, but like Shambo, those are not paper scissors. So.
Sham is paper, bow, scissors. Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Does not. Anyway, that's what I think of anytime someone says rock, paper, scissors.
Chriselle wins the other one. And she can actually keep it a secret because that's the one group that doesn't have a traitor in it.
Yeah.
So that's the group that, could really throw things off a little bit. But those are our shields, Carolyn, Dylan, and Chriselle. And then the rest of this is just running to crates and punching numbers into keypads that aren't actually connected to anything. And then they open the thing and get the gunpowder and they get enough. And they do blow up the traitor and get their money with a huge, dumb CGI explosion. Completely fake.
Boy, David really just ruined that one for us, didn't he? Keypad not attached to anything and then CGI explosion.
I just summed up. I watched with a group and I summed up our conversation during that challenge. We were like, do you think those are connected to anything? No, it's like a weird black keypad attached to a wooden box. Like that.
And also the group like put in the one that was wrong. They're like all like on. I was like, if this was really going to blow up,
right,
you would be like, and step back. They were like on top of that. So it was like, clearly we're not like actually blowing anything up in these people's faces. And
definitely not blowing up that giant traitor. Although that would have been really cool if they had actually made that a practical effect. But
if they'd actually blown up Tom Sandoval, it'd been great. No, that's too far. I went too far.
The other
No blowing
moment
people up.
during that challenge was another Carolyn moment where Gabby also confirms that Danielle had been throwing Carolyn's name out. So it's just like you say, this sort of like building on top of building on top of building, and Carolyn's just getting more and more frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's unfortunate because it's going to just be too much for Carolyn. It's going to push her over the edge, and it's such a distraction
Yeah.
from the game and from her game,
Yep.
and it's just going to get you more in your feels, and you're
Hmm.
going to start making personal decisions
Right.
because you just feel attacked because you just hear your name over and over
Yeah.
again.
But it's like you already had it out with Danielle with regard to this stuff. Like you said, Sarah, it's from a day ago. So the fight that you had in the turret is the thing that addressed this. And Danielle is now supposedly going to be changing. So, like, don't let this stuff inflame you. You know, you've dealt with it already, but it's just the timing of everything is tough. And Carolyn is just a very emotional person. I love
Yeah.
that they were in the car on the way back from the challenge together, just sitting in silence, not able to really strategize because Carolyn's like, the
No.
only name I want to say right now is the woman who's sitting next to me.
Yeah. Yeah. They do get $30,000. Good for them. Okay.
Yep.
Now we got to get going on Rob's or Derek's plan for Rob.
Uh-huh. So he's going to go to Ivor first. And I've never seen someone look more confused. Derek was like,
Oh my God, Ivor.
he's like, Ivor, to be clear, you convinced me. And Ivor's like, what?
He was like, "What was that one?" And I'm like,
What did I
this
say?
just sums up your game. You just info goes in your ear and then it comes out your mouth. And then
Yep.
you move on to the next thing that comes in your ear and out your mouth. And you don't even remember.
No.
Derek's over here like taking your little clue and he's like building a case.
Yeah. And Ivor's like, so who did I say? Are we talking about Boston Rob? And Derek's like, sorry, let me walk you back to what happened. Like, this was what you said.
Yeah, he's like, you convinced me. I'm now agreeing with you.
Oh. And I was
And it
like,
was almost
"Oh,
like Ivar's
okay.
face was almost like, no, I've moved on from that. I don't think
Uh-huh.
that's true.
I'm not on the Boston Rob thing
He's
anymore.
like,
No.
Boston Rob might be a traitor? Oh my God.
He's like, but Boston Rob got out a traitor.
Yeah.
So it's not truly, if I were Derek, I would have been like, I have to bail on this plan.
Yes.
This is not gonna work.
Yes.
And then Rob, on a parallel path, is coming for Wes, right? And he's with a group. I think he's with Gabby. I think he's definitely with Tom Sandoval because he pitches this whole Wes situation. And Tom Sandoval looks sick. He's like, oh God, he just seems that's exactly the face, Sarah.
But it's a little more pained. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's like so confused, it's painful.
Yes. Wes is also on the Boston Rob thing. We see him with Brittany, Sam, and Ivor. Again, Ivor. But Brittany is suspicious of Wes. She's not going to be convinced of this plan.
Well, so
And
Wes is going to mention to her about the Boston Rob plan.
right.
And she is not sure about it. She seems very sure that Boston Rob is not a traitor. So she goes to Derek and kind of is trying to confirm information. But Derek seems put off by Brittany coming at him. So he doesn't share the full story.
Mm-hmm.
And then this makes her more suspicious of Wes and then takes that to Rob, which is like just seals Wes's game at that point. Rob's like, I have to take Wes out.
I mean, because Wes brings up Derek in his pitch to Brittany. So she's like, I'm going to go confirm this. So she goes to Derek and she's like, Wes is telling me that you are like leading the charge on this Boston Rob thing, which, like you said, Sarah, she's really not suspicious of Boston Rob. She seems to really like him. So she's like, is this true, Derek? And he's like, I can't be a part of this because A, why are you protecting Boston Rob? And B, why have you been so quiet, Miss Ma'am? Because I've played Big Brother with you. I know how you do this game. you are not quiet. So that's that's like a false lead for him, the quiet
Yeah,
thing. But
unfortunately.
he's latching onto that and he's like, oh Lord, we got another traitor on our hands here. But I got to deal with the Rob thing first.
The obvious one at this
Yeah.
point. Yeah, it's like unfortunate because like what he's saying makes sense. You're like, she's obviously
Hmm.
a traitor with him because I know how she plays Big Brother and why
Yeah.
is she so protective of someone who's clearly a traitor. So
Yeah.
you're like, ooh, gone astray here.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, Derek, I love it. You're in the game, which I love.
Me
You're
too.
collecting your evidence. You're ready to make a move. This is
Yeah.
fun. But again, it's another episode where I'm like, I don't think you have the numbers.
No.
And
And
you
like,
have to be ready to
right.
go.
And I just feel like it's like half good Derek, half not good Derek. Like his case is airtight, in my opinion, and I'm convinced. But like he's not convincing Ivor. He's not convincing Brittany. I feel like he is so careful and he acknowledged, like, if I'm going to take this shot, I can't miss. So I feel like if he was bumping up against obstacles like that, I actually might expect Derek to be like, you know what? Forget it. Like, I'm not going to stick my neck out right now because it's not the time. And I think he's really
No.
smart about that stuff, but I don't
But
know what
he's like,
happened.
I've got to make the move. Like, you don't have it all the time in the world. Like, you do have to
Right.
make moves before you get murdered. So I guess that's where he's going in. He thinks he's laid the groundwork. He's ready to
Hmm.
go. So when we're heading into the round table,
Yeah.
it feels like Derek versus Rob versus Wes.
Those are the three, the new guys. We're going to get Dolores starting.
But we're going to start with Dolores. Yeah.
Because
Uh-huh.
this is so irrelevant to what's about to go down. But she's like, I just want to throw out there that Tom Sandoval, I know you said my name. And he's like, well, hear me out. And she's like, no, you're a bad faithful.
At first, she's like, no, don't stress. Go ahead, say it because what you're about to say is going to be absurd and make no sense and no one's going to believe you. Like
Right.
she shuts him down before he can even speak. And then I think he mumbles something and she's like, oh my God, whatever. And then the rest of the round table literally has to be like, you guys, we actually have to get to
Enough.
the point.
Derek is
This
like,
is such a waste of time.
you have to stop. I've got
Yeah.
bigger fish to fry right now. And so
Yes.
Derek lays out his case against Rob. And it is an excellent case where he reminds everyone of the Bob the drag queen move
Uh-huh.
and Bob the drag queen's vote for Rob.
Yeah.
And then Rob survived. Why would he survive after he successfully lobbied to get a traitor out? And then Bob Harper was murdered. Who was coming for Rob? If I'm at that round table, I'm like, let's vote now.
That is
I'm
some
convinced.
of the best evidence we have gotten because a lot of roundtables, you're like, we don't have a lot to go off of.
Yeah.
But you act weird now.
Yeah.
You come up with circumstantial things because you just can't get evidence. Derek is literally laying out evidence.
Yeah.
And
it's all spot on. It's actually what happened. And it is, he's interpreting Rob's motivations for all of that stuff correctly.
Yeah. A timeout. Can you guys hear the dog whining? Is it annoying?
No. It's
okay,
good.
Great.
I can't at least, but chat.
All right. If anyone in the chat is like, yes, that dog is driving me bananas, I'll try to put her out, but I think she's just going to whine because she's like, what is this stream you're doing? Okay, great.
Right. Rob is going to defend himself.
Yeah.
And he does an excellent job because
Rob is so good.
He's so good. It's unbelievable where he's like, okay, the drag queen thing. But don't you remember that Bob the drag queen admitted that he was a liar and he lied about everything?
He said he lied about everything.
Everything. And you know what, Derek? I was nervous. And I did think the traitors were going to murder me or Ivor. And I was as surprised as you that I walked in here and I was alive. And you know what that means? Someone's putting a target on me.
Yep. I think the fact that he laid that out pretty well, because that's not a bad, what's the word, explanation.
Misdirect. Yeah.
Misdirect for sure. And then instead of doing the very classic thing and be like, I think you're a traitor, actually, he goes, let me tell you a thing about Wes. And so I feel like that was even more believable.
Yeah.
Because Rob, just the way he manages our round table is
It's
It's just
iconic.
like, it really is.
He's
It's like
like,
masterful.
wait. Let me tell you what. I've heard Danielle's name. I've heard Carolyn's name. I've heard Dolores's name. And they're all coming from one person. Not Tom Sandoval. Yes. Although I'm sure they are also coming from Tom Sandoval, but
Right.
Rob's not concerned with that. He's like, it's Wes. And Wes was not ready for that.
He wasn't. And look, I don't know Wes from the challenge. I've certainly heard of him from the challenge, but Wes stepped into a new version of him that, we haven't seen on the Traitors,
Yeah.
which I imagine is more of a challenge Wes. And I don't think it was well received.
No. And I mean, Wes was ready to pile on Rob, but I don't think he was ready to kind of like be on his back foot of like being accused of being a traitor. That was a
Yeah.
surprise to him. So his defense, even though he's also making excellent points that are also true, just doesn't come off that great because it feels like he's doing that thing that you were saying, Sarah, where he's like, no, it's not me, it's you, like pointing the
Yeah.
finger right back. But he's saying, guys, remember when Bob the drag queen said that a new guy has to be a traitor? Well, I think that Rob is, and he murdered Bob because he thought Bob was coming for him. And again, that is a perfect interpretation of what happened.
Yeah, he was like, I bet they had an agreement and they were in the turret together. And like he laid it out really well.
Yeah.
But then I really think the like stab in the heart here was like when they sort of allude to him being aggressive and he was like, yeah, sorry, I'll try not to be as aggressive, but everyone who votes for me, I'm coming for you.
Yep.
I'm like, sir, there's only one way to come for people in this game.
Yeah.
Are you saying you're a traitor? Because that's what it sounds like.
It does. It does. He's sort of like, I think, unintentionally creating a case for himself as a traitor, But
like,
for the second round table in a row, I do think it's the Bambis who put the nail in the coffin here because Gabby's like, excuse me, Wes, you have been really shady. And I feel like you're out here building numbers to bring the attention off of you. And Chrishell's like, you've actually been quite aggressive. And they are just,
those
I guess,
Bambis
convincing everybody.
they're it's Rob and then it's the Bambis who have control of these round tables.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Derek is like, you guys, okay. But evidence. But then Carolyn's gonna be like, time out.
It's Danielle.
Like, what? I think Rob's face is like, what?
Yeah. And she's like, I mean, she gives a great speech, I think, for the future of her game to take any attention that might have been on her off of herself, because she just has, I think, this human moment that is kind of specific to Carolyn, where she's like, I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, but I found an ally in Danielle. And then I found out she's been saying my name this whole time. And I think that moment, I would think, kind of solidified in people's minds, like, yeah, Carolyn's definitely a faithful, and, she's just weird.
Right. It definitely helped Carolyn's game, I think. But again, what she's saying is kind of like the non-evidentiary way you approach the round table, right? Like, we were allies, you said your name, that's shady, that's weird, so maybe you're a traitor. Not proof that anyone's a traitor, but and obviously Carolyn's going to be upset. She gets a little emotional. She's like coming for Danielle. Danielle's like, no. Then Brittany is like, well, she's involved, and Danielle's like, you did say her name, and Carolyn's like, I did not say her name. We're gonna.
I love that because Danielle was like, you did. And it's coming from a totally honest place.
Yeah. And Carolyn's coming from an honest place too, of like, no, I didn't.
Yeah.
But
she doesn't know. She doesn't know what Danielle's referring to. Derek's like, guys, please listen to me. He gives it one more go. And he's like, do not vote for someone because they're annoying. Please vote for Rob. I will be voting for Rob.
Yeah. And here we're going to go through this vote, which was like.
But what about that moment right before the vote where Derek was even like whispering across the table to Dylan?
Oh, for Dylan.
Rob voted for Bob the Drag. And Brittany's like, Dylan.
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 I'm like,
Shuts it down.
I'm like, Brittany, how are you so dead set that Rob
I
is
know.
a faithful?
I know.
Like, I get the Bambis will fall for him and they feel like he's like their protector or something, but really?
Brittany's an honorary Bambi at this point.
Yep. Yep.
She's on board with them.
Yep.
So yes, this vote starts, I thought, dramatically with
Uh-huh.
the reveal that Dylan voted for Wes, right? Because you had that moment of like, who's Dylan going to vote for? And then it's Wes. So I was immediately like, oh no, like it's going to be Wes. And sure enough, the votes build up pretty quickly for Wes. It's like Dylan, Sam, Ivor, Rob, all in a row. But then once you get around that second sort of arc of the round table, the votes pile up for Rob. And it's like tied at one point, right? I
Yeah.
think Rob even took the lead like 5-4 at one point.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, he's getting a couple. I still was like, I don't think he's got it. I was like,
Yeah.
but he is getting some. But of course, people are just like, Wes,
I know.
Wes. You said you're going to come for me, Wes. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
There were surprising votes for Rob as we were going around that one section. I mean, the reveal that Danielle jumped on board and voted for Rob, like that's going to be messy when we get to the turret. And then Gabby was like, this might be confusing because I came for Wes, but I actually think Derek's case was stronger. And I'm voting for Rob.
this might be confusing. But I actually voted for Rob.
I'm sure Chriselle's like, wait, can I change my vote? I thought we were voting for Wes.
And think about like maybe those little things, maybe if Dylan had actually been convinced.
I know.
But the fact that Carolyn and Danielle couldn't take this effing opportunity to get Rob out.
Yeah.
What a hot mess.
And I also think like, Dolores, stop with your throwaway vote for Tom Sandoval. Vote for Rob or Wes. Like, get your head in the game and pay attention to what's happening. Like,
yeah,
if Carolyn and Dolores had both voted for Rob, it would have been a tie. And I was dying to see a tie. And actually, like, even regardless of them, it came down to Sierra and it was like 6 Wes, 5 Rob. And I was like, please vote for Rob. Like, I want to see what happens when there's a tie on the Traitors and see how this plays out. But no such luck. It was 7 votes for Wes and he's gone.
Oh my gosh. So wild. Okay. This is before we finish up here. Robin, this is an interesting take because when Derek was like, you know, obviously Wes is going to be like, I'm an effing faithful, you idiots. Derek said, you know, the other traitors are sitting here too. I thought that was pretty clear. He was talking about Rob. Like Rob convinced everyone it was Wes because he's a traitor. Like that's how the round tables work. I thought that's what Derek was saying. I didn't think it alluded to Derek. He's like, you guys are being manipulated by traitors.
Right.
Interesting. But yeah, Wes is now. Do you think Wes said this and it was edited out, or why didn't Wes say, "Who just convinced you guys to vote me out"?
I mean,
who has just convinced 3? This is the 3rd round table in a row that he led you guys. Who is that? Look at that person. Like,
truly.
Why wasn't that said, or was it edited out? I don't know.
Maybe it was edited out. I mean, those are the 2 things. These are the 2 things I thought in the immediate aftermath of the vote. 1, Derek is in trouble.
Yes.
I feel like he's going to get murdered. 2, how could everyone's mind not immediately say, well, Rob led the charge on Wes and he's a faithful. So
yes.
What are we doing
that's
here?
the thing. You can only get away with leading the charge and getting out faithfuls for so many times. It does look shady eventually.
Yeah.
Rob obviously has some sort of spell over the people. You know, he can sit in a room and talk to people and they believe him and they trust him. And so then they get to the round table and they still trust him.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got Bob the drag queen, but then you got out 2 faithfuls. So
yeah. And I have to say, like, as if thinking about like putting myself in this game, if I were playing, I just would want to get Boston Rob out just because he is so good at playing. He can lead the charge and
Yeah.
get a traitor out and trick me. And then he can lead the charge and get a faithful out. And he's just too good at these games to keep around. And the reality of the way that this game plays on TV is that you have to get a lot of faithfuls out along the way to get to the end of the game. There's only going to be a few people left standing. So you got to let people drop. I would happily let Boston Rob drop as a faithful because you just can't trust him. And that's what this game is all about, being able to like trust people.
Yeah, you and I would figure that out, and you would think Brittany would figure that out. But if you're like Rob and Wes, faithful traitor, who knows? But I don't really click with Wes, but I do click with Rob. Like you're just gonna get rid of Wes, which is I think where we're at, which is unfortunate just for Derek, because again, what you're saying is we're now walking out of this roundtable, and Derek is enemy number one. And I would usually say like that might buy you some time, but not the way Rob plays. He does not mess around. He'd rather murder you and go, oh my gosh, they're really trying to set me up. Wow.
Again.
Yeah, at the next breakfast.
Yep. But Brittany,
but you guys, Brittany, right first. Yeah.
She goes, Derek, can I yell at you really quick? I love her so much.
You dirty little
scumbag liar.
Like whatever he said.
Scumbag liar.
You scumbag liar. He's like, what?
She's like, you told me you weren't coming for Rob. And he's like, yeah, because you're obviously too close to Rob. And I think you're a traitor. Her face. The way, if she had pearls, she would have been clutching them. She was shocked to be accused of this. And she's like, look, Wes was aggressive and manipulative. And he's like, that is irrelevant. We know Wes was faithful.
Not a traitor. Yeah, I mean, again, he makes a good point. He's like, you're protecting an obvious traitor. So I got to think you're a traitor with him right now. And she's like, oh my God, I can't with you. That was hilarious. So but I was like, oh my God, we have time left on this episode. Are we going to the turret?
We're going to get a second turret in this episode. And the traitors, they are in no better place than they were at the top of this episode.
It was comedic silence at the top. They
Remember that fresh start where Danielle was going to make it right and Carolyn was giving everybody hugs. They take those hoods off and it is the longest silence. And Danielle looks like she's been put through a clothes dryer. She looks so frazzled and her hair is just like she's just staring off into the distance. Like,
and what? Rob's like, what?
I thought we made an agreement.
He's like, first off, you two, we're supposed to make up.
Carolyn, you voted for Danielle. Danielle, you voted for me. I thought we had a thing. I'm the only one who went for a non-traitor.
This is not working.
And Danielle's like, you started it. You went after Bob the Drag Queen. And he's like, Bob the Drag Queen started it. He came for me.
And they were like, did he really? And he's like, yes.
He's literally like, yelling at Danielle.
Yes.
He's like, Danielle, don't be stupid. You would do the same thing.
He's like, we know these games.
Yeah.
He's like so frustrated. I was dying laughing this entire turret. They are such a hot mess.
And Carolyn is like, Danielle, you are making up lies that I said Brittany's name. And she's like, but you did say that you wanted to murder her right in this turret.
Oh, and the silence after that.
Carolyn is like, and the staring contest between the two of them, Danielle stares and then she kind of like cocks her head. Like, did you not?
And Carolyn's like, oh, so we're going to tell her this happened in the turret then?
She's like, get real, girl.
Yeah, even Rob was like, what? That's what you're talking. What?
But like, Danielle's just like, I told the truth. You did say her name.
You said you wanted to murder her. So, but like the air sucked out of the turret.
Yes. And Rob's like, I don't know what to do. And Carolyn's like, well, we got to get Danielle out. And
Carolyn's like, obviously, we're coming for Danielle. Danielle's like, just try. Just try.
Bring it. And Carolyn's like, you have nothing on me. And she's like, oh, I have plenty. Don't you worry.
What, like all the stuff from the turret? Like, I literally am envisioning now, the two of them being like, but in the turret. And you're like, what? They're going to out each other.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. So we have no idea who they're murdering, but we do see in the preview for next time that it's like a face-to-face murder. I don't know what difference that's going to make.
Yeah.
But that should prove to be dramatic.
Yeah,
and then
because especially if it's Derek, which we're assuming is going to be top of the list, if they decide to go that way, Rob, Danielle, and Carolyn are going to walk up to Derek, and he's going to be like, "Okay, wait. I mean,
he's like,
this, yes.
I knew about you, Rob.
These
but
two?
You too?
Wow." But yeah, sure enough, here's Rob killing me right now. Okay.
Yeah. No, Derek's going to walk in and he's going to be like, oh, wait, where's Brittany?
Yeah. Oh, so no Brittany. What the heck is Brittany doing? This is confusing. But I mean, that would be actually fun to do a face-to-face with Rob and Derek because they just came for each other, or Derek came for Rob. So to be like, okay, we're murdering you. And he's like, yeah, not surprised.
Yeah. Good luck. I think you're going to win. You have everybody around your finger. But then I assume it's going to be Danielle versus Carolyn at the next round table. We got no preview of what that looks like, but it's going to be messy.
It should not be like that. Is the most frustrating thing that they have. This is just such a distraction. I mean, I'm mad at Danielle for even putting that in play because her goal was to get Rob out.
Yeah, I know.
If she had not put that in play and the two of them were able to like work with Derek to get Rob out this episode, they'd be so much happier.
Yeah.
And they're just being hot messes.
They are being hot messes. Yeah.
I mean, it's still entertaining. I know a lot of people are struggling with the fact that the Traitors are not playing the traditional game, but
I know. But it's it's just a little bit of a symptom of how this game has to be for TV, because they know that if Traitors get murdered, they're just going to be able to recruit more. And you have to have that as a rule in the game, because they can't have all the Traitors get voted out by episode 5 and then there's no more game to play. Right. So it's just like, I don't know what rule you could incorporate to prevent that kind of thing. And honestly, like, I don't know that they need to incorporate a rule, because I am entertained at watching the Traitors self-destruct and see how they work through this.
Yeah, I think that it stems from the fact that I think most people want to root for the Traitors, but you have to be flexible with this show. Like, it's okay to root for the faithfuls.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Robin, good question. I don't know that this is the best Traitor so far, because I really loved when Cirie just ran things.
Me too. I know season 1 is underrated. People don't like that season, but Cirie was amazing.
Cirie just killed it, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I feel like people were like, "Oh, the real people were boring."
Oh, that's right. There were real people then.
Yeah.
And last season was so good too. So I'm enjoying this one entertainment wise, but I'm gonna have to wait to see how it ends.
Yeah.
Because at this point, if Tom Sandoval takes the money, like, I'm not gonna enjoy it. Tom Sandoval and Brittany being like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Really? Rob. It was Rob. Okay. That's really not going to be a great end if that's where we go.
Yeah, I know. But excited to see this face-to-face murder next episode.
Oh my gosh. And what a great turret. Oh my gosh. These people.
And a great round table. Like Derek and Rob and Carolyn had like big dramatic monologue-y kind of moments at the round table. It was like, where is this going to go?
Yeah. And even seeing Wes weigh in, I was like, what fantastic television to have such icons, like such hardcore gamers going for each other. Like, usually the hardcore gamers just manipulate the people who don't game.
Right.
And they run the show. So to see Derek go for Rob and Rob go for Wes and then Carolyn go for Danielle, I'm like, honestly, this is fantastic. This is brilliant.
It really is. Yeah.
Worried for Derek, but brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you guys, thank you for joining us on a Sunday. Thank you for putting up with whining dogs and all this new stuff here. You guys in the chat, you're my faves. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you for joining us live. And if you're joining us later, leave a comment and tell us what you think about Wes going home. And are we right? Is Derek in trouble? Is Rob just going to plunge that knife into Derek next, or who do you think he's
Yep.
going to murder? And which of these 3 traitors do you think is going to be next out? I actually don't know that I don't think it's going to be Carolyn, but I can't decide if it's Danielle or Rob who will be the first out.
Yeah, I mean, I was so concerned for Rob, and now I'm concerned for Danielle. I have no idea. And do you think Tom will make it to the end?
I do.
Yep.
Yeah, I do.
Yes, please give a thumbs up on your way out. Oh, good. You root for faithfuls by default. Interesting.
Oh, good.
Just different ways to watch this show. That's what's so great about it. All right, we'll see you next week.
All right, bye guys.
Bye. Oh, no, still clicking.
I gotta click the thing.